Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Evil Live. I'm your
Mhm.
host, the Evil Tyrone, and we've got a very, very, very special guest in the building tonight. We've got Crystal Connor in the building tonight. She's a heavy hitter, ladies and gentlemen. She is an horror slash sci-fi award-winning author doing things out here. She does her coast to coast show with Lady Shasha, who's also a friend of the show, and she's got her own, she's got the Cabin in the Woods, festival, the film festival that's coming up this August. So Cabin in the Woods, Cabin in the Woods
Cabin in the Woods Film
filmfestival.com.
Festival.
Yes, make sure y'all check that out. Make sure y'all check that out. Got a lot of exciting things to talk to you about. I'm so excited that you're joining me today. So excited. Thank you for joining.
I'm super excited to be here. Super excited to be here. Like my face hurts. I'm so smiling so much.
Yes, yes. We got some people in the chat. Thank you, Curly, for stopping by. Thank you, Jaleesa, for stopping by. Show us some love. Show us some love. Now, I guess we can get into it. What's your horror origin story?
My horror origin story. I think I've always liked my to be entertained with things that are dark around the edges. Um, I remember on my when at my launch party for my first novel, The Darkness, my mom was interviewed because it was like a 2 hour party, and they scooched over and they interviewed my mom and they asked her, they're like, when did you know that she was going to be writing horror stories? And my mom was like, we knew that she had a vivid imagination from when she was very young, because when she learned when she first learned how to lie, she would have all of these cast of characters. And I'm the firstborn, so I was by myself for like 4 years. And so my mom was telling me that I would have all of these other people that did the things that I was supposed to do. And so, like, they knew that I had a vivid imagination, and they knew that I was lying. But interesting enough, they didn't like stifle that. Like, I didn't get in trouble for lying because my mom said the stories were so interesting, right? And so I guess it's always been there. It was embarrassing to hear my mom say that, because she was so matter of factly. She's like, ever since she learned how to lie. And I was like, what? Like, how come you never told me that? And why are you telling me that now in front of everybody? Like, oh my gosh. But like when I was younger, the reason I got invited to the slumber parties is because I told the scariest stories. And I'm not joking. I would tell frightening stories, and I would be asleep and everybody would be huddled together looking at the branches, like scraping against the window, and I would be like, I've always been entertained by the darkness, I suppose.
Yes, yes, I love it. I love it, and I'm glad that you were the one, to bring the scares, when you were younger, and that they were receptive to that, because we get a lot of people who are like, oh, they weren't really feeling it, but for them to be receptive of that, and for you got to let that outlet, you had that outlet to get your stories out, that's an awesome thing. That's an awesome thing. So when did you make the decision to get into writing, like just to become like an author and take it serious, because you've got some work, out there.
Okay, so incidentally, how that happened, I've always written. I That was something I've always done. I used to write for my friends. I used to like use it, like I used to write as a hobby. And so I'm classically trained as a marine propulsion diesel engineer. And when I quit, and so what that is I used to work on it as an engineer on those large container ships you guys see in the harbor that move freight. That's what I did for 20 years of my adult life. And so when I stopped doing that, because you have to move with those ships, and I would that's how I was able to travel so much, because you have to go where the ships go. And I loved it, but I was ready to like put put my roots in. So I came back to Seattle and I started working in a shipyard as a welder. And so chatting up with some of the guys, of course, I told them that I wrote stories. And over time, they were telling me to go and talk to the welding instructor because he was a writer too. And so I just didn't like, I would just come do my job and leave. And so he came and found me and he's like, hey, I heard that you wrote, like, bring me some of your work. I'd like to look at it sometime. And I'm like, okay, no problem. And so I brought him a short story called The Darkness. And he took it home. He's like, do you mind if I, read it on my way home? He commuted by the ferry. And he's like, and I'll show it to my wife when I get home. I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So he took it home. The next day he came back to work and let me set the scene. Okay. I'm 5'7.5". So I'm not like a little tiny, wallflower. Like I'm a big girl, right? This man is 6'7". He's, no hair, blue eyes, like a Viking of a guy. Like he looks like a guy that you would think would be working in a shipyard, right? Towers over me. So I like come, strolling in and he looms over me and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And I'm like, who the fuck are you talking to? Like, it's my shift. What am I doing here? And so he threw the story at me. He like threw it at me. He's like, this is not a short story. You need to start taking your work seriously. You need to quit your job and write full time. And then he stormed off. And so I was pissed off because, first of all, who do you think you are, right? Like, you're not going to talk to me like that, right? And so I was pissed off until noon. And I really like had to sit and think about what he said to me. He said, I wasn't a bad writer. He said I was a lazy writer. He didn't tell me to keep my day job. He told me to quit my job where I was making $56 an hour to write full time. This man knew me from Adam, right? He didn't know me from nowhere. He didn't have any emotional connections with me. And I found out he was an award-winning author. He had won like almost $1 million in prize money. Like he knew what he was talking about. He was the first person that like your friends and your family are supposed to tell you that you're good. And I've always been told that I was a good writer because those are my friends and my family, right? Like, and I just thought that that's what they're supposed to tell you. But this guy doesn't know me. He's angry at me. He said I was a lazy writer. So I was like, okay, wait a minute here. Wait a second. Like he might, like maybe. And so that was on a Wednesday. That Friday, I hired an editor off of Etsy. I mean, not Etsy, off of Craigslist. And I was like, hey, I think I'm writing a novel. I want to know if you can edit my work. And she's like, that's perfect. I've been looking for, because she was a technical writer and she wanted to break off into creative editing. And so she said yes. And so she was editing as I was writing. And so she got to a chapter where there's a part where this Adam, who was created in a science lab, he killed a priest when he was 18 months old because he didn't know what was going on and he couldn't control his powers. He just didn't know what was going on, right? And so the death scene of the priest was way too much for her to handle because she was she was Catholic. And so she called me and she's like, this is way too much. This scene has unsettled me. I'm not going to be able to edit your work anymore. I did not realize how this would affect me. However, I have someone else who can edit your work and I want to know if you can come and meet with her so that you can meet with her and go over this stuff with her. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And so I thought, she gives me the address. And so I thought it was just going to be, meeting another editor. And so I show up at this address. I'm wearing, let me set the scene again. I'm wearing jeans, flip flops, and a t-shirt. I have 2 pieces of bubble yubble in my mouth because I like my bubbles huge. And I walk into what is essentially a business meeting. So imagine this woman, like an older white woman with the gray hair, with a tight bun, the pearls, right? And she's sitting there and she's got her son on one side, her daughter-in-law on the other side, and they all have this printed out, half not done manuscript in front of them. And it's a publishing company. It's a small publishing firm in Seattle. And I sit down and I'm like, what in the world? And she asked me, this woman who owned that publishing company, she's like, do you know how this story ends? And I was like, not only do I know how it ends, I'm already writing the second book of this. And she's like, okay, we believe we will get our money back with you. And then she has like this paper and she turns around and she slides it across the desk and it's a publishing contract, just like that. And I was
Wow.
like, exactly. And so then I signed the contract, and I'm happy that it happened the way that it did because it was a learning experience. But like, we'll leave it at that, right? But like, I left out of there and I called my mom and I was like, I just signed a book contract. And my mom was like, oh, yeah, well, that's good. Like, I'm making this for dinner. Do you want extra potatoes? Like, then I called my bestie and I was like, I just signed a publishing contract. Nobody except for me was surprised. Like nobody. They're like, took you long enough. And so not only was this welder correct that I was being a lazy writer and that it was not a short story, it ended up being the first book in a trilogy. It first time out of the gate, nobody knew who I was. I was published for 6 months. I had only been published for 6 months, and I started pulling international awards. Right, so he was right, and that's how I became published, and I haven't looked back ever since. And not only am I not working in a welding shop anymore making $56 an hour, I am now, like you said, an award-winning horror author. I'm a Bram Stoker nominee, and my books have allowed me to purchase my second piece of property, which is a condo in Seattle, and I am entertaining purchasing a cabin in the woods. So that's where I'm at right now.
Wow, that is one hell of a that is one hell of a story. That is one hell of a
It just
story.
kind of just like tripped into it. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So what subgenre, do you dive into in your stories? Like what are some of like your favorite places to go?
That's one thing that like surprises me most of all, because I thought I write just basic horror, but I my subgenre is basically defined by the readers. Like I have a story that it's called The Lazarus Antidote, and it is a zombie story. Zombies are my least favorite in all of monsters created because the formula is the same over and over and over again. So I wrote a story, a zombie story that doesn't have zombies in it. It was the hardest story I have ever written in my whole career. And luckily for me, zombie fans loved it. I was expecting to be eviscerated when that story was published because zombie fans are the hardest ones to please, and there's no zombies in this story. And so once I started getting the feedback for the Lazarus Antidote, they were saying it was a love story, and I was thinking to myself, "What the hell is wrong with you guys? Like, how are you guys thinking this is a love story? Like, are we sure? Like, okay, okay, it's a love story, but like basically all of my stories are based on the foundation of horror. Like that's I like the my and all of my stories, like it was brought up to me in a convention like 5 years ago. I had a mega fan in Atlanta who was saying that it was interesting that every single one of my characters, my main characters, or even my villains, always have a moment where they're like reflecting like religiously, or they're like, you know, saying a prayer, or referring to the Bible. And they were like, that's interesting how you always like have something like that in your stories. And so, and I think that's just because I was, raised in a Christian home, and religious horror is my most, that's what scares me the most, because I think the scariest thing in me, for just me, because I don't think I do believe in God, but I am not a Christian because I'm not living to um according to scriptures. Okay, that's just, so I'm not, right, but I am God fearing. And so the scariest thing for me is the concept of God turning his back on us, right, or God turning his back on me. Like that's super scary. And so that's why religious horror always scares me the most, is because I absolutely believe in God. I'm God fearing. I know what I'm supposed to be doing to like be on that straight and narrow path, but I'm not doing it because I'm vindictive, and I'm, like I said, like I vanity is not a virtue, but I am super vain, and just a bunch of little shit that I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't. You know what I mean? So like, I think that would be like what scares me the most is religious horror, and which is why I think there's that creeps in and out in almost every single story that I've written.
Wow. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Well, another question that I have for you, since you have a quite a collection, what gets you like past because a lot of people have like they second guess themselves, they have insecurities, like what gets you to push past, certain things, whether it be writer's block or, overthinking, like what gets you to push past that, in your writing journey?
So the only time I've ever was hesitant when I was writing was when I wrote my children's book, My First Nightmare. And the reason is because that book is based on actual folklore, mythology, and urban legends of actual people's beliefs of all of everyone around the world, right? Except for European and Egyptian, because we know about that. That's inundated, and everyone knows who Odin is. We all know who Horus is, right? And so when I was writing that book, I was super nervous because I didn't want to be accused of cultural appropriation. I didn't want to get the stories wrong, and especially because it's told from a Western point of view. So My First Nightmare is narrated by two brothers, Tayshawn and Kevin. Tayshawn is 4, Kevin is 7. And the premise of the story is anyone who has their first nightmare before the age of 7 can join the family business, which is monster hunting. And so when Tayshawn goes to his big brother after he has his first nightmare, his brother is super happy because he has made it through the threshold to become a monster hunter. And so he takes him up to his bedroom, up to the attic, and he, over the night, shows him all of these monsters, A through Z, of monsters from all around the world. And the book is with monsters, real monsters, actual monsters from all around the world. And so I had to really like reach out to people from different countries to make sure that telling their stories from a Western point of view did them justice, and reaching out to people to ask about their oral stories to make sure that, one, I did them justice, to two, that I had permission to do it, three, to prepare myself for any negative feedback, because they are right. You don't want to, as a creator, appropriate anybody else's stories, especially since I had to dig them up, right? And that was the only book that I ever, those are the only stories that I was ever hesitant in writing. But in the feedback from these people from these different countries just egged me on, like, because like the woman that I reached out in Romania, she was like, how did you even find this story? Like, where did you come from? Like, you live in the United States. And I was like, I know. And I just was looking up, like, so the Romanian story, in Romania, like here in the United States, we have a whole bunch of knights in shining armors and a whole bunch of princesses, and they have all these different journeys. The story that I did from Romania, they have one knight in shining armor who has been all over doing all these different adventures. And so in my story, these are his nieces from his sister's side of the family, and they had to go fight a dragon. And because, and this is another thing that made me super nervous, and I don't know why, because we grew up reading the girl with the green ribbon on her neck. Remember that story where at the wedding
Yes.
after he got married? Like, so why was I afraid to like scare kids? We grew up reading books like this. And so so they don't win. The girls don't win because it's a dragon, right? And so I sent the story off, and I'm like, this is like how I'm telling the story, and I want to know if I've done a good job. And so not only did she read it before she came back to me, she had shared it to a whole bunch of other people. And so they were telling me, she's like, you have no idea. She's like, you've never read any of these stories? And I'm like, no, I found one story, and all the other stories that I found reference this one story on the internet. It seems to be an oral story. So this is what I've made up. And she's like, this is insane because you're so close. And she's like, the reason these girls didn't win is because the uncle had a spell and your girls did not. She's like, this is insane how close you are. And the fairies that they conjured, they have two sets of fairies. One are good fairies and one are bad fairies. And they conjured the bad fairies. But the bad fairies helped them anyway. What they did is they made sure that the fight was fair. And so they went to go save their sister who got taken by a dragon who comes to our side of the world as a beautiful boy, but because it's for children, this was a high school kid who stole their sister, and they went to the other side, and so now he's a horrible dragon, and their sister is trapped, and the boy's mom was the girl who was trapped, the generation before. And so when the girls went over there to go and fight for their sister, the evil fairies went with them. Well, they didn't go with them. They just went to make sure that everything was going to be fair. And so when the mom saw the sisters and saw that they had killed, and so this is another thing that happens in that story, to kill the main dragon, to kill the dragon that they needed to kill, they had to kill the lower siblings in order. So like for me, I'm the firstborn. So if they wanted to kill me, they would have to kill my younger siblings first. And so when the girls went over there and killed the youngest dragon, the dragon mom decided that she was going to kill all the girls all at once. And so the evil queen fairy was like, that's cheating. And if you do that, I will destroy everything in this kingdom. You can't do that. That's cheating. And so she
Yeah.
had to stand by and let it all play out. And so the women, the Romanian women were telling me that the reason that he was able to be successful was because in his earlier adventure, someone gave him the magic spell to freeze all the dragons so that he could do what he had to do. But unfortunately for the girls, the other dragons were still, they had their flight capabilities, they had their fire breathing capabilities, and the knights on the castles were still able to defend the castles with bow and arrow. So it was a horrific battle, and the girls didn't make it. Like it's like, you know what I mean? So like it was really like getting the feedback from these ethnic people. I don't want to like make a mistake and say this, but like just getting the feedback from all these, there's 26 different stories from 26 different countries. And this was the hardest book that I had to write, because one, I wanted to kind of keep it toned down because it is for children. But the problem is when you're writing about actual monsters, some of these monsters dwell in the dark. And even though I wanted to keep it in kind of the safety area of the gray areas, you can't do that when you're talking about real monsters. And one of the biggest things that I wanted to kind of, because fairy tales are meant to teach, right? They're meant to be cautionary tales. Kids aren't afraid of the big bad wolf anymore, but that doesn't mean he doesn't exist. And so these monsters in these books are old world monsters dealing with modern day kids who are distracted with their phones, right? And so these stories aren't being told anymore. And so these kids aren't, when they're interacting, when they're coming across these monsters, they don't know what to do because they haven't been told the dangers. Like the fairies that are from the Dominican Republic, Ernesto didn't even know, he had no chance. Like he had no chance because one, he didn't listen to his grandmother, and two, like his grandmother didn't tell him the story, and I don't think he would have believed her anyway. You know what I mean? And so all of these monsters are like, the big bad wolf, but from different countries from around the world. 26 different countries from around the world.
Wow. Wow. Worldwide. I'm loving it. Worldwide. Loving it. That's it's an amazing thing to be able to put your work out there and just to have reception, from all over the world. Like that had to be something for your brain, when it first happened. That had to be something.
Well, when the concept first came out, I didn't want to do it, right? So I I write for adults and I'm good at what I do, right? I mean to ensure that you don't get a good night's sleep, right? So like when I was approached by a fan who asked me to write a children's story, I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, you've already cussed me out because you lost sleep and you didn't go to work. Now you want me to terrorize your children. Like, why would you do that? But then, like, over a year, I kept getting that request over and over and over again. You should write a children's story. And I didn't want to do that because, like, why would I do that? And I remember one of the reasons, like, what made me nervous is like maybe 4 or 5 years before that person asked me to write a children's story, I was traveling. I don't know where I was. I think I might have been. I was taking a connection flight, and I was connecting through Salt Lake City, and I saw a teenage girl reading my book in the library. I mean, in the airport, and I was excited at first, but she was bawling her eyes out, like she was like ugly crying, tears and snot, and I felt bad. And I was like, but she's young. Like, why is she reading this book? I wanted to hug her, but I didn't want to bother her. Like I was like, why is this kid reading my book? Like, oh my God. But then again, when I first read Pet Cemetery, I was in the 7th grade and I did the exact same thing. So, you know what I mean? We're built for that. Like, that's my tribe. Horror people who like horror are gonna like experience horror at all ages of our life, right? And so I was like super nervous about like writing for children because like I don't know how to tone it down. Like, and this is a true story. I got this woman, I was sued in small claims court because this woman got into a car accident. She rear-ended someone because she said that she was up all night long reading and she was tired. Except for, luckily for me, she didn't show up and it was dismissed. I called a lawyer and I'm like, can she do this? And he was like,
What?
yep. He was like, she absolutely can. And you cannot have a lawyer because she's only asking for $5,000. He was like, if she was going to sue you for more, then you can get a lawyer. But because it's small claims, yes, she can sue you. You need to go to court. Otherwise, she will win by default. And I was going crazy because I'm a starving artist. Like, where am I going to get $5,000 from? Right. And so I show up to court and she didn't show up. And so luckily I didn't get sued. So like all of this is in my mind. Like I got sued, like I got, I didn't get sued, but like I got paper served, right? I saw a little girl crying in the airport, and now you want me to write for children. And so I was at this party and I was lamenting. I'm like, why would anyone, like, why do people keep asking me to write for kids? And this guy was like, he was joking. He's like, I can imagine now my first nightmare, thanks to Crystal Connor. And then it was like, just like that. And I'm like, okay, if I write for children, how can I do it? I'll introduce them to horror. So if I'm going to introduce them to horror, how can I do it? By monsters. Okay, so let's like explore boogeyman from around the world. And then that's how I found out. That's how I came up to the concept of my first nightmare, the ABCs of monsters. So that's how that came about. And so it is narrated by two little black kids, Kevin and Tayshawn. And each story, do I have? Oh, and I can't even. I mean, I want to. Oh, I have one right here because like this is a Zoom meeting, and of course I'm at home and I'm not dressed, but I don't have to get up, so I don't have to flash your guest. But I have a copy right here. So like this is the copy of the book. So there's Kevin and
Wow.
Tayshawn. And so each cover. So, and another thing that I was like nervous about is the artwork, because art is not it's not affordable, right? So in each part of, I hope I'm not like just like hijacking. So this is Kevin and let me see if this is gonna work better. So this is when he first goes to
Wow.
his brother with his nightmare. Can you guys see that okay?
Oh yeah.
And so in each so on in each chapter, here's the child when they first get in contact with the monster. So that's in South Africa. And so then at the end of each story, you get the flag of where the monster is from, what the monster looks like. Oh, and then like there's a
Wow.
here we go. Like what the monster, how deadly it is, the size, the habitat,
Oh, the
and the
danger
type of
level.
monster.
I
And so
like
like
that.
that's on every single, like for every single. So this one is this is the Lechuza from Mexico.
Wow.
This is the Tyanak from the Philippines. Can you guys see that again?
Oh yeah.
So
Oh
yeah,
yeah. I'm
so
loving it.
this is and then this is and so I got all custom fonts. So all of these fonts, you're not going to see them except for in my book, unless you like um hijack them. This is Dominican Republic. This is the fairy from the Dominican Republic.
Wow.
Yeah. And so yeah, this is it. This was this the hardest one that I was super nervous about. This is Native American indigenous from here in the United States. There's a story about the First Nations people in Canada, red cap, and so yeah. So this is the book, and so and then in the ends, here's the whole entire family because he does decide to join the family. He does decide, and then there's Rocket, who's all throughout the book. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
this yeah. So it was just really it was a super fun project. The got so the first artist has been working with me for years. He's the one who helped create my logos, and so when I told him what I wanted, he was the one who did the bulk of the artwork. The numbers that he came back with were like within budget, and I was okay. He's doing this because this is the homie hookup. I've been working with him for years. Of course, he's gonna say yes. This is what I want to. So this is the legend that he made for me. All he did all of that. Um, so of course the numbers came back okay. But when I wanted this type of artwork, right, I was like, okay, this is going to be expensive because I need a children's artist and I need full color pages for each monster. And so when I reached out to a Black woman who is an award-winning children's illustrator, and I told her what I wanted to do, and asked her, if you could give me a quote, her numbers came back affordable. And I was like, okay, why would she give me these type of numbers? Like, is it because like she doesn't know me from nowhere, and I'm getting a homie hookup from her too, right? Like, and so it was meant to be. I think it was because she thought the project was exciting, I guess. And not only that, not only did she give me a homie hookup, she was like, because I was looking at the numbers and I was like walking around, I was like, oh my God, this is really gonna happen. I'm gonna have a children's book. Like, this is really gonna happen. And then because she didn't hear from me, because I was like making sure that I was awake, she sent another email and she's like, hey, let's do this. Put a deposit down and you can pay for 4 pictures at a time. Are you kidding?
Wow.
And so then that's how this all came about, because when I, first started thinking about it, like thinking about how I wanted this to be, because I'm hella extra, I was thinking there's no way I'm going to be able to afford the illustrations. And then I could. And so that's how we got the children's book. But to answer your original question, this was the only book that gave me pause, that like made me nervous, because these are actual stories that, like, I made up the interaction between the children and the monsters from a Western point of view, because it is told from Kevin and Tayshawn's point of view, and they live here in the United States. But these are actual, like, you can Google them, like, and people have. These are actual monsters, and so I wanted to do right by them. And so this is the only book that stressed me out. Just because I wanted to get it right. You know what I mean? I just wanted to get it right.
That's awesome. That's
And
awesome. I love the
there was a
illustration.
guest on your show a couple of there's a guest on your show a couple of almost a month ago who does she reviews children's books. I've been looking for her forever, but I want to give her a copy of that book. I watched her review, and I don't know what happened. I think I might have been like, um anyway, I can't find her, but she reviews children's books, and so I wanted to, and I don't know if she's watching now, but you know who all your guests are, but she does review children's books, and she was saying that she wanted more diversity in Black horror, and so I want to give her a copy of a physical copy of this book so that she can review it and share it for her audience and her children. And so yes.
Yes, yeah. I think you might be talking about Auntie Spooky. She does a lot with the
Yes, that's
children.
exactly what I'm talking
Yes,
about. Thank you.
yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes, she's awesome. She's awesome. That'd be awesome if you guys connected. That would be epic. Like I love the illustrations. I love the stories. Behind it. Like I've got a little nephew, so I'm like I gotta cop that for him. Read him some little bedtime stories. Let's get him started off right. Get him started off right.
Right. And so like I got my first child's review. He was reading it over the summer, and so he had to his mom was like taking pictures and like sending them to me, and she was like, I can only imagine what his teachers are thinking about when he uploads the review, because he would read each story, and she was telling me that it was the only book that he would read beyond what he was supposed to, because she was having a hard time finding stuff for him to read. And so when he started reading this book, he just read it and read it and read it. And so he's a little bit younger than the target audience, but like he loved it. And so like I'm no longer worried. But you have to be careful with children. But like there was like he reviewed every single story, and none of them, like one of them he didn't think it was fair because um one of the kids that got encountered with the monster was a 90% good kid. He couldn't understand why she had to encounter the monster. But the thing is, monsters don't care if you're good 90% of the time, right? Especially monsters, like if a monster can get a kid who's good 90% of the time, that's a high value kid, right? And she made
Yes.
a tiny mistake that snowballed, and when she was ready to like own up, and she was going home to call her mom, and the monster got her because she was a good kid. She thought, again, because these kids don't know these monsters because they're not being told, right? They're on their phones. But she was going home, and she saw this old man who she thought was an old man in the alley, and his cart broke. This is a story from Nigeria. No, not Nigeria. It's I can't remember, but anyway, it's a Middle Eastern African country. Why can't I remember? Because I'm on live. That's why. But anyway, she was leaving the arcade to go to the internet cafe to call her mom. She was grounded, and she snuck out, and the kids that she was with were doing way too much. And so she's like, I'm just going to go home and get in trouble. And so when she was going to call her mom, because she didn't have her phone because she was grounded, she saw this old man whose cart fell over, and so like the wheel fell off, and his oranges were all over, his eggs were broken, and so she was going to help him because she was a good kid, but this
Yeah.
was the monster. And so he was really
Wow.
mad at me for that. Yeah, he was really mad at me for that. But you know, I'm sorry, kiddo. She it's really hard to be good, and you have to try your hardest to be good, because you just never know. You never know what one
Yes.
simple mistake will happen, what will happen. So
And it's real
so
life.
yeah.
It's real life lessons. Like you can be a good person out there and be well intentioned and still come across monsters in real
Yep,
life.
yep,
On
yep.
on varying
And
levels.
this monster was particularly nasty. It's one that like, because like there's in the book there's like um field notes of what you can do, and if a monster is five or more, you don't bother it. Like you just avoid it because you don't have the training. Not as young monster hunters, you're never gonna like, you know what I mean. And so this was a four, a number four in the danger level, so there was nothing that she could do.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Amazing.
So he was
Amazing.
particularly upset. He was like, I don't understand. Like it was not. It's not fair. But I have to stay true to the story, right? Like these fairy tales are more like the Grimm's brother, but even the Grimm's brothers, when I was like researching one of the stories, and but I already knew the Grimm's brother had toned it down. Like the Grimm's brother during their day was Disney. You know what I mean? They toned it down.
Yeah.
There, when I was like a couple years ago, I did a conference on the science fiction of fairy tales. The Grimm's brothers toned those stories down. Like the shit that happened to the real Red Riding Hood. Like, you guys told this shit to kids? Okay. But it was at different times, right? Like you really did not want your kids in the woods. Like you really didn't want them. You didn't want them there. So yeah, you had to like tell them stories to keep them safe, really. And that's what fairy tales are meant to do. They're meant to keep your kids safe. So yeah, yeah. And
Yes.
that's basically what these stories are, because like just because we don't talk about them anymore, like it doesn't mean they've gone away.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely got to carry on tradition. Got to spook the kids. Got to teach them some lessons somehow. Generation to generation. We've got some people in the chat. Mr. Dan says, "I'm gonna get some of Crystal's work." Yes, yes. Mike says, "Okay, I'm gonna have to look into getting that book for my niece. It sounds amazing." Yes, yes, it does. It definitely does. Now, how my next question for you is, how is it like, or how does it feel? Like, I'm sure people ask you, but how does it feel like being a black woman in this space, when sometimes people don't necessarily think that you exist, you know.
Like we were talking about before we went live, like people, it's like, you know how sometimes seeing is believing, but sometimes they see and they still don't believe it. So I had this guy come up to me at a convention after he had argued with me. So this is one thing that happens to me, because some of my horror is fantasy, and so they want to argue with me the validity of, okay, so you can believe a dragon breathes fire, and you want to believe a dragon speaks English, but you don't want to believe a white dragon for some reason can breathe fire, because in a game you played, white dragons are ice dragons, whatever. So we're not going to argue with that. You're not going to argue with me with that. Like, this is my story, right? And so then he tells me, he's like, I can't believe a black woman would write horror. Okay, so when I'm at a convention, I like rock star out. My hair is done, my nails, heels. I
Yes.
have a big billboard, like it looks like I'm a booth babe or a movie star, right? And excuse me, in the back of all my books, there's a picture of me. I'm all over social media. You guys can see me. So what do you mean you don't know that you read the book? You sent me an email to argue with me. You come to meet me in person to argue with me. What do you mean you didn't know that black people write horror? Like, what? Like, what? What do you mean? Like, what am I supposed to say to that? And then, like, and another thing that is in completely infuriating is, so that the astonishment, that's like annoying, but another thing that's infuriating is that um so the Spectrum trilogy, um we have to go back before the Hyborian age to really learn how this war between the O'Briens and the Claymores start, right? And so I have people who try and argue with me of the realm of nine. So how are you going to, which, and when they talk about, we all know the historical accuracy, they're talking about the racial makeup, right? So how are you
Yeah.
going to argue with me about the historical accuracy of a world that didn't even exist until I told you it did. Okay,
Mm.
you didn't even know anything about the Roma 9 until I told you it existed. Okay, there are Black people there. Deal with it. Like, you're gonna have to deal with it, or you're gonna just read something else, right? Like, I will fight you. Like, I don't care. I will call security and have you dragged out. I will take your pass. Like, what's happening here? Like that really chaps my hide. Like, if that takes me from professionalism to ratchetness, like how dare you? And like, if you want to talk about historical accuracy, Black people have been in the beginning of existence, and we're everywhere from the dawn of time. Like, how is that? Why does that
Thank
spin
you.
you out of control, right? Like, and okay, that's not what we're here for.
It's
That's
okay.
not
It's
what
a
we're
safe
here for.
space. It's a safe space. You know.
You know what I mean? So like, I like that is it's infuriating. Like, if you don't like it, then just don't read it. And you know what I mean?
No,
So
I
like, that that happens, and then because there's also like military tactical, have men come up. Okay, I'm a veteran. Okay, so don't come up to me and tell me what the Navy wouldn't do. Did you serve? Because I did. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, whoa, go read Tom Clancy. We've like, are you kidding? Like, in the Spectrum trilogy, I have a task force that I completely made up. It's called the Urban Tactical. What did I call it? It basically deals with. It's separate from the police and the FBI, the CIA, and what it does is it deals with terrorist attacks in urban settings, right? And so this guy came up to me, and got into a big argument, and then he followed up with an email to tell me how
wow. Wow. Up, is it a lagging? I'm lagging over here. Up, technical difficulties. Hello. Technical difficulties, folks. That's what happens sometimes when we are live, but we will be back relatively soon, you know. But yes, thank you for everybody rocking out in the chats. You know, curly girl, exactly. Doesn't even make any sense to criticize people for that. If you don't like it, you shouldn't read it. You know, if and for someone to come at the author uh of the actual, you know, story and to be like to question, you know, certain validities, like that's the author, you know, like how can you question, you know, what's the written word that she wrote, especially a story that came from her, you know. So it's a lot of crazy people. It's a lot of crazy people out there, you know. But thank you for stopping by. Thank you, Mike. Oh, she's
sorry.
back. No
Okay,
problem.
so you guys, I'm sorry. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and our weather is stormy here, and so it'd be like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry
It
about that.
happens.
So it's our infrastructure. Seattle is we're so spoiled with our weather. If it goes like this much out of the perimeters of what we like, then everything goes haywire. Like the internet, everything. Like we don't like it, like we like it, like between like 68 and 71 degrees. We don't like it when it gets too windy. Like we love the rain, but it's like thundering. So like, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry for that. I was like,
No problem.
no, like I'm like looking out the window, like this is like I love this weather, but like as far as technology is concerned, like Seattle is fickle when it comes to stuff like this because we're not used to it, right? Global warming, so climate change, like it's getting like what city does everything like all the power shut down when it gets warm? Like in the summertime, we lose power because everything is hot. So like, yeah, that's
Wow.
Seattle, the Pacific Northwest. So
Seattle.
sorry about that, you guys. Thank you for waiting for me to get back online. I was like, oh no, like my phone, everything was like, I'm like, how's my phone not even having internet? So yeah, that's
Oh no, it
Seattle for us.
happens. It happens. But thank you for that. My next question for you would be, because you talked a little bit about the conventions and some of the foolishness that goes on. But what's some of like your favorite things about being at the convention, especially being an author at these conventions.
My favorite thing is selling out. Of course, who doesn't like that?
Yes.
But being a fan, I'm a fan, right? So like I still fangirl. Like I went to HorrorCon in Atlanta, and I hope you guys all know who Linda Addison is. I grew up reading her poetry. I'm a huge fan of hers. And when I saw her there, I started crying. Like I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I was just like, "Oh." And she's like, "What's wrong?" And she comes up to me and she's like, wiping my tears. And I'm like, she's touching me, which made everything worse, right? and so and so she was like, "Baby, what's wrong?" And I'm like, "Do you know who you are?" And she's like, "Yeah, do you know who you are?" And I'm like, "What?" And so and at that same convention, like a couple of hours later after I composed myself, I'm like, I can't believe I made an ass out of myself in front of Linda Adders. Like, what? Oh, and so then I was at the, I don't drink, but everyone gets like when you're a vendor, you get drink tickets. So I was gonna go get my Coke on the rocks, right? Just is basically soda with ice. And so I get my Coca-Cola, and the guy gave me the can because he's like, "You're not drinking anything." I'm like, "No." And so I turn around, and there's Jack Kitchum and Jonathan Mulberry right there in front of me. And I
Wow.
drop my soda and I start crying. And Jack Kitchum, he's so nice. And so is Jonathan. He's like, "What happened? What's wrong?" And I was shaking. Like I took a picture with them both, and you can see them on my Facebook. Like, and I just couldn't. I was just like, I just couldn't. Like, I couldn't. I was like, these are the people I grew up being entertained by. Like, and now at HorrorCon, I was considered their peers. Like, how see goosebumps? How does that even work? Like, are you kidding? Like me, Linda Addison, Jack Ketchum, me, no. And so, like, but then again, like, it's hard not to. I'm so emotional. Sorry, guys, but it's so hard not to like act like a ratchet ass fan too, right? Because the Soka sisters. So after American Mary, like I saw them randomly. Like I was talking to this girl, she had like a shirt, and I'm like, and I was like, "Where did you get that shirt?" And she was telling me about it, and then I like it dawned on me who I was talking to, and I was like, "Wait a minute!" And she's like, "Yeah, that happens all the time." And I'm like, because I didn't like the way that it ended, and she was like, "Dude." And then her sister came up and was like, and I was like, "And you too, because you both, it's just convention life. It is what it is." I remember the very first convention I went to outside of Crypticon. So Crypticon is or Seattle, it's the biggest horror sci-fi convention in the Pacific Northwest, and I used to volunteer there. So when I was my first year of vending, it was a big deal. They were like, "Our very own Crystal Connor from Volunteer to Vendor," right? And so I sold out on my first day. I was super blown away. Seattle. like brought me into their arms, and I was just like, oh my god, this is crazy. And so on my second convention, we were in, oh my god, I think we might have been in Portland, I think. But I was being a fan, right? I left my convention table to go and get somebody's autograph. And so security was like, you need to stay at your booth, okay? People have paid money to come and see you. And then that like dawned on me. I was like, what? And so I had to stay, because I was going to try and get autographs. And so that dawned on me like, okay, I'm a fan, but now I have fans. And then it drove it home when I was going to Atlanta. This is the biggest the HorrorCon was the biggest convention I had attended at that time. It was 4 days, Thursday to Monday. And I tweeted on the plane. I was like, dudes, I'm just gonna go set up my booth, and then I'm gonna go back to my Airbnb. I'm not feeling good. I don't think I'm just gonna see you guys all on Friday. And so when I got there on Thursday, people were at my booth already. They brought me tea, and they brought me like emergency. And there was this one guy who had a copy of and they all and they lit and the, oh god, what is it called? And they all lived happily ever after. And it was like water damaged. It was held together by a rubber band, and he wanted me to sign it. But like, I was like, I can give you a new book. Like, I like, what's going on with this book? He's like, no, I don't want a new one. I want you to sign this one. But like for those 4 people, like one drove from Nashville. Like he drove from Nashville. He's like, I don't want you to not, like, I know you don't feel good, but like, hopefully, like, here's some tea, and those 4 people who had come to HorrorCon to see me. Like, that's mind blowing. And then in Kansas City, because me and my assistant, we did the Days of the Dead tour. We followed them 4 cities, right? And so in Kansas City, again, a child who was, I didn't know this until she came to my booth, but she was on restriction, and she navigated the terms of her, she renegotiated the terms of her restriction because she wanted to come and get the darkness. That, I don't know why she was on restriction, and I don't know what she did, but she somehow navigated the terms of her, she renegotiated the terms of her restriction to come and get the darkness. She wanted that book so bad. And so her parents, like, these conventions are not cheap. Her parents bought tickets, and they marched her right to my booth. And now, coming to a convention as a fan, there's so much to see. And I was like in the middle of, like, when you first walk in, so like you have to pass by all these other awesome artists. They marched her right in front of my booth. They bought the darkness. I signed it for her, and I'm like, oh my god, do you want to take a selfie? And her dad's like, she doesn't have her phone, she's on restriction, and this is the only place that she's coming because she renegotiated the terms of her contract, so that not the contract, her restrictions, so she can get the book, and that's the only reason why we're here. And I was like, a day pass for one book for one person. Oh my god. Like, oh my god. And so I signed the book and I give it to her, and she's like super happy. She's like, this is all I wanted. And then they sternly march her out, but then the dad jogs back. He's like, can I get the other 2 books? And I'm like, fuck yeah, you can. And so, like, she got all 3 books in the convention. So like, it's just like, it's weird to know that I have fans. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird, like, and humbling, and oh my god, I have fans.
It's a like, beautiful thing, though.
I mean, this is what I wanted, but like, to like really like sit and think about it. It's just wow.
Yeah, just embrace it. Take it in.
I have fans. So, but yeah, it's just. But like, it's interesting to sit and think about it in retrospect, because at the convention, it's like convention life, right? So you're just like seeing people you only see at the conventions, and you're like like if I buy, like if I sell two more books, I'm gonna go buy this poster, right? You know, so you're just all wrapped up in it, and then like 5 days afterwards, you're so tired that you just don't really get to sit and think, oh my god, I have fans. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's amazing. That's amazing. And then you started, the cabin in the woods, film festival. So how was that? Like where did that idea come from?
So I used to, so when I was starting writing in the darkness, before then I joined this blog, this writing group, and we had to like post on our blogs the writing assignments. And so what I was also doing at the same time is like I scream at horror movies like most of us do, right? And I used to post on Facebook wild ass like outbursts. Like I said something once on Facebook like, at this point, grab your dog, the purse, and your kid, leave the house and set it on fire. And so everyone would be like, what movie are you watching? And I would do this all the time, right? And so like people was like, you need to start reviewing movies. Like you can't just like post a status like this and not tell us what movies this is. And so I started this on that same blog that I was posting my writing assignments to. I started a DVD pick of the week where I would write a whole review. And so then as I started to start really working with the editors after I signed my book contract, I started focusing on getting my book done and writing less and less DVD picks of the week. And so I already had a small fan base, but they were there for the movie reviews. And so they were like, we know you're about to be a famous author, but we need our DVD picks of the week. And so I kept doing that. And so then Horror Addicts reached out to me and they're like, hey, how would you feel about writing reviews for Horror Addicts? I'm like, what? Is this my life? And so then I started writing DVD picks for Horror Addicts. And then it went from DVD picks of the weeks to live action reviews, where I would like watch the movie and write down all of my reactions that I would scream, and then write a summary at the end. And so then I was assigned a small movie, a short movie to film, and I watched it on my camera phone. I mean, I watched it on my camera and I filmed myself doing the reactions because it was like 6-minute film, and I posted that, and everyone was like, we will no longer accept any more reviews except for that way. And so then that's how, when you guys go to my page and you see the way that I do my reviews now, that's how that came about. So then I started going to film festivals. And of course, you cannot review film festivals that way. But I would be interviewing directors and interviewing, like reviewing movies. Like this movie was so great, 5 out of 10, right? And so I went down to the Portland Horror Film Festival and last year, and it was the first film festival that I went to where I was not either a judge or doing it as a correspondent. I went just as a fan, and I was like, oh my god, this is fun. But the correspondence in me took over, and then I reviewed it as for a live action review. And so I was like, you know what, I need to have my own festival because this is way too fun, but I wanted to do something different. And I've always wanted to like be middle of the woods watching horror movies with my friends. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do a festival, a different type of festival, because it's hard. Like there's so many amazing festivals that are vying for like horror fans' attention. I wanted to do something very different. So the way my festival is set up is the first 3 days. So I have a selection committee, and I am not on the selection committee because I know a lot of directors, and I don't want anyone to say, oh, this movie got in because she knows the director. I'm not watching any of these movies. They're selected only by the selection committee. So once the selection committee selects the films that are going to be shown at Cabin in the Woods Film Festival, the VIP patrons will be spending 3 days and 2 nights in a cabin in the woods, watching and judging all of these horror films, okay, for 3 nights. And then on the last day of the festival, which is on a Saturday, the gold, platinum, and black ticketed guests will come to the festival and watch all of the films, and then there will be an award ceremony at the end. That's one thing that's different for Cabin in the Woods Film Festival. Another thing that's different is it's all inclusive at all ticketing levels. So for VIP guests, Um, that ticket includes the cabin stay and all the food and all of the movies at the theater, plus all the perks from the black ticket guest. So okay, so it of course it's is that me or you?
Oh,
That's
that's me.
me.
My apology. Yeah,
Okay,
they've been going around all
the,
day.
it's city life, right? And so, but it does not include transportation, obviously. So, the theater guest is so black ticketed guest. That's like the highest tier. So when you purchase that ticket, it includes brunch, and then you will be able to have brunch with film directors and special guests. Of course, all the films, and it has high end gourmet um, concession, so you don't have to buy anything from the concession stand. So it's high end popcorn, high end candies, the high end drinks that you will have that will be handed to you. And then there's the dinner banquet with other um, filmmakers, and again, like, and that's all included in your ticket. For That's black ticketed. For platinum ticketed guest, it's the dinner and high end. So like the black ticket, their concessions are super high. For uh, Platinum guys, their concessions are like medium. So like Lynn's candy, these guys are getting Swiss candy, and then for gold ticket guests, they're getting tickets to go and give to the concession stand, and they will be given the popcorn and drinks, so they don't have to come out of their pocket with that. And then they'll also have an option to purchase a dinner to go, so they can still have a dinner if they want to um, go and sit underneath the space needle, because like that's where the theater is, right up underneath the space needle. They can go and get their box dinner and eat it in space underneath the space needle, and then come back and enjoy the second part of the theater. Another thing that happens is we have a virtual track that is going to show different movies. That's what's in the theater. And because I want my in-home guests to have a festival experience, there's going to be stuff going on for there too. So like before their movies get started, they'll log in for an escape game. So they'll all be playing the escape game before the movies start. There's a cool contest during each block. So when we go to the movie theaters, the biggest thing that we have to do is turn our phones and be quiet, right? But we like to scream at horror movies. So there's a social wall that everyone's going to log on to, so that all of their hashtag comments will be posted on the social wall, so everyone can see all of the comments and get to follow everyone back and like meet everybody. And so like each comment, each like, so when you're like screaming at the screen and you hashtag that comment, each block, the best comment will win a prize. And then, of course, at the end of the festival, the best comment will win like the grand prize. In between each block, there's speed trivia, but only 10 will advance to the next round. And of course, there can only be one winner. And then during the dinner hour, where the guys on the theater are at dinner, there's going to be a bingo game for the guys on streaming live, or the guys who are streaming on the festival. And so then at the end, the guys who are streaming will be streamed into the theater so that everyone can be together for the award ceremony. And then there's going to be a dual award ceremony so that we can see who won awards for the movies that were shown in the theater and who won the awards for the movies that were shown streaming. And then during that time, our guys who were streaming can vote for their audience choice awards.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
It's
so it's
jam packed.
all inclusive ticketing.
Yes, yes. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. This is like the evolution, of the film festival. This is an evolution. I'm loving it. She's got a lot to offer, especially the gourmet food, like that's next level. That's next level.
Yeah, so like I found these gourmet Whoppers. Like, are you fucking kidding? So inside, so this is for black ticketed guests only and VIP, obviously. But it looks like a Whopper, but inside there's a fucking popcorn coated in caramel. Are you kidding?
What?
That's bougie as fuck. It is. It really is. Yeah. And I tasted all of the treats that you guys are getting. So it's insane. So of course the guys that are going to be in the cabin, they're going to be roasting marshmallows. So the guys in the theater, they're not going to be able to do that. So one of the treats in the concessions are this company makes these it's like it is a s'more, and it tastes just like it's like the graham cracker, the burnt marshmallow with the chocolate over the top. Like what? I tasted all of the treats. My fat ass. You guys are in for a treat. Like it's gonna be so good. Like I can't wait. I can't wait for you guys to like come and hang out and yeah. And so then there's the menu's already up. So like for the brunch, it's just like and there's like meat eaters and vegan eater if you don't eat meat, there's substitutes for you guys too. But like basically like it's like pancakes and like it's like a buffet breakfast style for the brunch, and then for the dinner it's salmon with rice, and I don't know what else she has, asparagus. It's not cheap. Like
Yeah.
it's meant to be um like the Canes Festival. Like it's even like because I it makes me mad that people still think horror is not a legitimate genre, right? And I super love big festivals. I love the noise and I love the chaos of it. But like sometimes attending a festival as a correspondent, these big festivals, I just can't interview the directors that I want to because they have a tight schedule and there's a million people. And then when I do catch a like a film actress or a director in a pub, I can't like the footage I record is not usable because it's so loud, because there's 50 million
Yeah.
people and like you know what I mean. And so with this festival, I will be able, or anyone who's attending will be able to talk to these filmmakers and directors and actresses on a more intimate setting, right? It's more like um, it's still a festival, but it's more like I like it. I envision it like the reception of a wedding, right? Just really high end, very still horror based. The question and answer banquet is not going to be panel like. I have each guest, they have their names on, like, hold on, you guys. I'm going to turn off my camera. I'll be right back because I'm not dressed, but hold on. I'll be right back. I'm going to show you something.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Hold on,
No,
hold on.
no
So
problem.
I'm still here. All right. Okay. I am back. So this is my Cabin in the Woods film festival. It looks like a state park,
Wow.
right?
Yes. That's
So
awesome.
each each guest has a mini one with their name on it, right? And it's like a table setting. And so it's going to be sitting in front of their where they're going to be sitting at the table, and they're going to be just sat around different people. So when you're sitting next to someone, you can see who it is that you're sitting next to, and it's just going to be an open-ended conversation, just like what we're doing here, so that you can actually um, develop real connections and have real conversations and be able to like develop actual friendships and connections and network at my festival, and still have you're like sitting on the edge of your seats with like movies from like all around the world, like super scary movies. Like some of the um submissions that I'm seeing, it's just incredible. Like I'm not watching them because I don't want to be accused of anything unethical, and I don't want any of my film directors who are selected to be like, oh, they only got selected because they know her as a friend. I don't want that, right? So like, but I sometimes peek into their chat, and they're just like, some of these films are out of control, and so like I'm super excited to be able to like present this at my film festival. So this the only thing is I'm a brand new film festival. I need to figure out how to market. Like some people are finding me, like I get super excited every time I get a submission, but like I gotta step up my excuse me, I gotta step up my game.
Oh yes, oh yes. It sounds amazing. It sounds, especially for for a first time festival, like you're swinging for the fences. Oh my
I am,
god.
because I don't do anything normal. I'm extra. I'm always doing the most, right? And so, like, when I was talking to, so I have mentors who are other film directors, or not film directors, but film festival founders, right? The first thing that one person who's super mad at me is at the pricing. He's like, you need to bring your pricing up, and I'm starting to do that a little bit, but like I'm nervous because um it's a little bit it's a little bit pricey. But when I did a blind study and I asked people how much they would pay, they're willing to pay so much more than what my tickets are. Like, I'm like, why do I sell myself short? Like, is it because I am a black woman in the industry? Like that's something I need to unpack, right? Like, I have paid through the nose for stuff that I want to do, right? And I
Yes.
did a blind study with horror fans and people who are not horror, and I had one person was just like this. She told me, because right now, um, and I don't want to tell you what the tickets are, what they're priced at right now, because they're not on sale, and they're probably going to be changed before they do go on sale. But she said that she would pay almost 700% more than what they're priced at. And she's like, this is not for the average fan, right? This is for, she's like, this is a Coachella of film festivals. And I was like, what? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what it sounded like. You know, the way
Okay.
you're describing it and everything you're listing, it does sound like the Coachella of film festivals, you know. So,
And so, yeah, it's weird. It's really like, and I've always had this, like, even like with my, with when my first nightmare first hit the market, like I was so upset at the price point. I was like, is this, like, it seems too much. Like, I don't, like, it seems a lot. And when I launched at New York City Comic Con in 2018, I was happy that it was being sold, but who was buying it? I was like, is my book too expensive? Like, you know what I mean? But like the artwork and the research and you know, I just have to figure it out and know my worth. I think that's the, like, my biggest Achilles heel as a creator and as an artist, and as like doing this film festival, because like, um I just need to be okay with not like, and because it's such an exclusive film festival, it's not going to be 800 people. Like, I don't like the theater I chose was small because I want that intimate feeling of just like, um high end, um something different. You know what I mean? Like, Coachella is huge. There's 50 million people there.
yeah.
But those tickets are expensive. But I do like I like attending a large festival. I don't think I would go to Coachella because that's just way too much. But this is something different. Like, you know what I mean? It's more like, and I wouldn't mind if it was like compared to the Canes Film Festival, even though it's a huge festival. But the Canes is like none other, right? And so I want Cabin in
Yeah.
the Woods to be like none other. So I'm just gonna have to be okay with the fact that it is going to be the tickets are going to be expensive, but again, they're all inclusive, and that's one thing that I've never seen at a film festival. And people pay, like, you know what I mean? Because like, I've traveled to film festivals, and then like you're like, okay, do I have enough for popcorn? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so why not have a all inclusive film festival? You're gonna, some people are like, I have people coming out of state, so like, let's make it easy. Like, let's make it like, you know, let's make it easy. Let's make it memorable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, especially like where else can you get this experience? It sounds like a once, it sounds like you can only get that sort of experience, you know, there, you know,
Right,
in
right, right.
Seattle, you know. Like it's you're setting up something special. I'm like, "Oh, this is, if this is the first time, you know, I'm excited to see what may happen. The 10th time.
Yeah,
What's
and then there's all kinds of stuff that's happening at the cabin. So we're not going to just be like watching movies, right? Like, so the cabin is on an island right off the coast of Washington, off the south coast. And so there's like we have access to the golf course. This is an Airbnb property. We have access to the golf course. There's the boat. We have a photo shoot in the woods. I'm super excited about. We have like there's stuff that's going to be, and then there's also plenty of downtime if you don't want to do anything, if you just want to like just like go lay out and get suntanned, or if you just want to like there's plenty of hiking, you know what I mean? So there's plenty to do, and it's going to be in blocks, right? So there's like a 2 hour film block each day, and then there's events at the cabin, and then after that you can do whatever you want. You sleep in, or you can like go golfing, or you can take the boat out, or you know what I mean, like you can go
Yeah.
hike to there's like a really big thing in the woods out there that I don't want to say because it's you have to buy a ticket, but you can go hike up there if you want to. So like it's just not going to be like nonstop watching horror movies there. And of course, all the food is going to be included except for when we all go out to dinner. That because I just don't know what you're going to eat. So,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, yeah, I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited about it. I just, and everyone is like, oh my God, this seems so exciting. So, like, I think I'm on the right path there. So, and then like the awards that are so cool. So, I found this small seller. She makes what looks like campfires, and they're for wedding receptions, but they're going to be my trophies because Cabin in the Woods, get it?
Wow.
So each trophy is going to look like a little campfire. So yeah, come and win an award, guys.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So they can check that out at Cabin in the Woods Film Festival, .com. All the information, and more information to come, as far as the
And
festival is
then if there's
concerned.
any filmmakers who are watching who want to submit, so this is a short film festival, 30 minutes or less. So we're accepting anything horror, subgenre of horror or horror adjacent. If any of them are watching your show, watching now, they can reach out to you and I'll give you a code and then they can get 50% off the submission price.
Yes, yes. That's you hear that? You hear that, people? 50% off the submission price. You cannot beat that. You cannot beat that. And also, follow on social media. What was it? Cabin on Twitter, um
Cabin Fest.
cabin fest, cabin
Yep. And
underscore
then
fest.
cabin, what's my Instagram? I think it's just cabin. I'm so bad. Um,
It's all right. It's all right. It's the first year.
hold on. My Instagram is I have two Instagrams, so that's crazy. My Cabin in the Woods Instagram is Cabin in the Woods Film Fest for Instagram.
Yes, yes. Cabin in the Woods Film Fest. Make sure you definitely, check that out and follow, to keep up with the updates, because it's going to be a lot of updates rolling out. She's got a lot of amazing people coming and, showing off their short films, and I can tell it's going to be a vibe.
It
It's
really is.
definitely
I'm
going to be a
super
vibe.
excited about it. Like I snatched one of your guests. I'm like, I know, like she was like, who are you? I'm like, no, 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 don't worry about that. So I saw one of your guests, um hold on. Kristen Keaton. So like I was like, I swear to God, just like Auntie Spooky. Like so I was watching your show, I was like, this is not a black film director female. Like there's no way. And so then I Googled her and I realized, hold on, okay, I'm back. And then that's your sirens, not mine. We live in the city.
Oh
Okay, so
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, who is she? And then I go to her page, I go to her Kickstarter. No, how I found her was because you did an unboxing. And I'm like, what is this? Because if you guys can see, I have a whole bunch of horror stuff back here, like right back here. And so like I
Yes.
want that too. I went to her Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and I'm like, who is this? And so I went back and I saw her on your, I'm like, I'm emailing you. And so then I was like, hi, you don't know who I am, but I have a film festival and I'd like to invite you as a guest and just show your film. And she's like, my film is not ready yet, but can I still be a guest? I'm like, yeah, here's the dates. And she sent me back her itinerary. She's like, here I come. I'm like, da, da, da. So
Wow.
yeah, like I totally stalked your page. I know that side, but I'm wholly romantic. So like, but then your girlfriend also noticed I stalked your page because she friended me and she's like, okay, so this is who I am. Slow your roll. I'm like, okay, sorry, love you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Like that's one of the reasons why I do this, so people can look on the page and see, content creators, especially content creators of color, whether it's directors, writers, whomever, and they can just be like, oh, this person's awesome. Let me go follow this person. This person's awesome. Because a lot of times people will just have the mentality like, oh, there's not that many of us out there. And it's like, no, there's a lot of us out there. We just gotta just celebrate each other and just link up and collaborate and
And there's a lot of us in the background too. Like you guys remember the show Fringe? So did you
yes.
know Brie Williams was one of the producers? I didn't know
No.
that. Yeah, yep. So like
Wow.
we're out here. Like we just need to like be celebrated. Yeah. I when I found that out, I was like, wow, she not only was she like a producer, she was a big one. Like she wasn't like a like one of the ones with like in the little text in the background. No, she was a big producer for Fringe. So yeah.
Oh yes, oh yes, that's awesome, and you're right. It's a lot of us behind the scenes. We just gotta be celebrated. Gotta be celebrated. Now I have a couple questions for you. About the genre that we love. Do you have a favorite decade of horror?
No, because like each decade has so much to offer and
Yes.
like um I don't like it's just I love it. I love what I don't really like. I don't want to go off on a tangent is the remakes. Like so I I recently watched the remake of Children of the Corn and
Really?
there was so much left out of it that it, I don't know if the people who watched the new one and didn't see the old one if they got as much out of it, right? So like one of the
Yes.
things that kind of bothered me was like on the wall it said he who walks, right? But in the original it was he who walks in the corn. So like we know that in the original they were talking about the entity in the corn, right? In the new one the religious element was removed from it, and I think it was to not offend anyone, because it can be extreme religious extremism is offensive, but that's what made it scary, right? Like especially children being that extreme in religion. And so like to tone it down I think takes away from the art of the original story. And I don't that little girl, she knocked it out of the park. Like I see her becoming a scream queen or like a villain, right? Like I see a long career in horror with her, but I don't. It didn't sell the fact that she would be that politically aware at such a young age,
Yeah.
right? It would make more sense for her to be wrapped up in like the original kids. They were so wrapped up in the religious part of it because that's what happens in the Bible Belt, right? You have kids who are growing up, like when you watch the when I don't know if you guys all watched the documentary Waco. Those young kids were like so wrapped up in that cult that it makes sense that they would be religious fanatics. And so like it was lost. I do like that they changed the monster to make it look like he was from the corn, from except for the original one. But
Yeah.
I just think that it just watered it down. I'm really concerned that about the remake of And why can't I think of it? Oh my god. Because it was so brutal. Were the ones where they were drinking milk out of Britain, like, on the cover he had the upside down eyeliner. God, what is that movie? I'm gonna remember it later. Um,
That was a
oh,
Clockwork Orange.
yes, thank you. Clockwork Orange. I don't know, like that should not be remade. And because when remakes are done, they like try and make it so that no one is offended, but that movie is offensive. And to
Yeah.
try and remake it to like not have it be offensive, I just don't see how that's gonna work. It's the offensiveness that makes that movie horrific. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the things that they were doing in that movie is what makes that movie horrific. And so I just don't understand how that's going to work out. And I saw that they're trying to make an American remake of Squid Games. Why? Like why? Like
Yeah,
that
we're
is,
always doing the most. We're always doing the
and then it's not as good. So I've stopped. I know I didn't mean to go on this tangent, but like I stopped a long time ago watching remakes of American classics like I have not seen. I know that you guys are going to like come at me with the pitchforks, but I'm sorry. I have not watched the remake of Evil Dead. I'm
most.
not
It's
doing that.
okay. It's a safe
So
space. It's a safe space.
I'm not. Nope. And because like it I did like the original trailer though, like, but like I can't do it because it's not as good. And so I don't want to be disappointed. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's as far as your question is concerned. I don't think
Yeah.
there's one genre, one era is better than the other because each era has like some movies that just knock it out of the park.
Yes. That film that you wish you could have been on the set for, a horror film.
Ooh, The French Inside.
Ooh. Ooh. That's the
That film is
first.
so atmospheric, you know what I mean? And so I would have liked
Yeah.
to see how that was done um from the director's point of view, right? Because one of the most chilling parts of that movie is when the cat was trying to warn her that she was in the house. And so remember when she floated from the darkness and then floated back into the shadows and the cat was like trying to, that is chilling, right? And I would like to have seen how that was done, right? But you know what I mean? Like that movie was just like so, it was just so frightening, but suggestively so, until everything went to hell in a handbasket, right? But the lead up to that was just so terrifying. Like, you know what I mean? Like the cat was trying to warn her, but like we don't really consider cats as like guardians like that, right? Like she was just
Yeah.
like, if it had been a dog, maybe things would have turned out differently, but it was a cat. And then when she was taking pictures of her when she was on, like that movie was just visually, it was insane. It was like it had me in a chokehold. And so it would have just been interesting to see done. Oh my god, okay, I'm still here. I'm still here. Okay. Yeah, I just would have been interesting to see how that was done.
Oh yes. Oh yes. That was a great pick. That was a very, very good pick. Very good pick. Now, some black horror. I always love to ask people like, what's some of your favorite, black horror from the past?
Can I do one from the present?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So Robin Gibbons directed a movie called The Haunted Trail. And the reason I love this movie so much is because um, it has a whole black cast and the token person is the blonde girl. And it is me. So it is about a group of people who are getting ready to, it's Halloween and they're going on a haunted trail. And when I was watching that film, it was me and my friends, how we go and go to the Halloween haunts and be on the trails. And like it was so incredible to see a horror movie with a all black cast, with the
Yes.
token white girl doing stuff that black people, like, we were not represented that way, right? But we do go to haunted houses, and we do go to haunted forests, and we do haunted stuff. And to see us represented that way was just like, this movie was so fun and terrifying. And it was a really cool concept because when they started to get in trouble, it was real, like no one, like they were already on a haunted trail, right? So like, for those of you guys who don't know, a haunted trail is like a haunted house, except for you're in the, like, on a haunted trail. So like, you've got actors running around with the saw. You've got like ghosts, and people are running on the trail and screaming because you're on a haunted trail. So when they started to
Yes.
get in trouble and started screaming for help, people heard them screaming, but they thought it was part of the show. So it was just so good. And then when we find out what happened at the end, it was so good. Like it was just like, it was so it was just so fun to see us represented in a horror movie doing stuff that we normally do. Like I loved it. And so I just want, if you guys haven't seen that, a black film directed by a black female film director, Robin Givens. Yes, that Robin Givens, The Haunted Trail. And so to go back to one of my favorites, it has to be Blackula, because like he was about it. Like I, when she died, it was all over for everybody. Like it was all over for everybody. like, like I was like, okay, well, he was like now that's a love story, and I think though every single Dracula movie is.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
At its heart, at its core, it's a love story. It
Hmm.
is what it is. It is what it is. Now my next question for you would be: does horror do anything for your mental health specifically?
No, not really. No.
uh, all right, wait, that's, it's an answer. It's an answer. That's you're the first person who's been like, nope, nope. So it's
Terrence
an
says, I'm
answer.
doing myself a disfavor by not watching the Evil Dead remake.
You know what? Everybody has their feelings on the Evil Dead remake. Like I personally really dug it. I feel like the original is better, but I really did dig the remake. And then Kirsten, I had Kirsten on, and she went up for it. She was like, "Oh, it's better than the original," and I'm like, "Oh, it's a safe space, a safe space. Everybody, put your pitchforks down." But yeah, everybody. That's the thing. Everybody feels very passionate about horror, and just what they soak up and how they feel about certain things, because there's certain things that I won't watch. Like I didn't check out the Children of the Corn remake, because I was just like, I don't know if I I don't know if I want to
It's
go
just
down
so
that
much
route.
more missing. It's just I think like it might have worked for people who are just watching it for the
Yeah,
first time, but like it just wasn't scary. I think the main character of the new remake was supposed to be, so remember the girl from the original, the one who was in the backseat, he knocked her out, and he's like, oh, she's knocked out now. I think that should have been, I think she was supposed to be her, right? So they were elevating her character, but like, I don't know, like once I like something, like, and plus there's so many amazing new concepts out that there's really no reason for a remake. Just like Knock at the Cabin Door, like there's so many authors that have really amazing concepts that like there's no reason for a remake. And I think even though some of these original movies are horrific and unsettling, that's what makes them horror, right? Like I don't think everything needs to be watered down, and I don't think everything needs to be, um how can I put this, where so that to remake it so that people are not offended by it. I mean, it's
yes,
horror. It's horror, right? Like I've had people, so I I like my apocalyptic stories to be biblical in nature. And so I had a woman write to me, like she emailed me a 5 page email about a scene where a cop, well, a guy, he had to hit a woman twice to subdue her and to, take her into jail. And so she was super angry at the fact that I didn't put a trigger warning on, male against female violence. But she didn't say anything about the fact that she was armed to the teeth and she was coming to kill everybody in town. Like, what do you want me to do? Right? It's horrific. Like it's biblical in nature. It's the end of the world, and he was defending himself. Like that's another thing about being in the military. About this whole don't hit a woman. Let me tell you something. We are not the weaker sex, and with the right training, and sometimes just with luck, women are dangerous. And he did not just like randomly go find her and beat her up. He was, he was defending himself and everyone that he loved. So like it, when you're entering to the horror space, you have to be prepared to be unsettled and not be able to sleep and be upset days after. Like, and I think that's what the essence of horror is. Like I told you guys, I review horror movies, and one movie that I can't talk about yet because it's from out of the Middle East. It is one of the best exorcism movies I've ever seen in my whole entire life. So the premise, well, it was a rabbi who was doing a exorcism, and the demon was so strong that he had to take a break, and he went and got an imam. And so they went back and they were both exorcising this demon, one speaking in Jewish, one speaking in Arabic, and they finally exorcised this demon from a child. And we find
Wow.
out that the demon was possessing the child to protect Earth from the child. But once the demon was exorcised, that child was free to do whatever she wanted to do, right? And once these two religious men realized what had happened, what they had done, what they had unleashed, it was devastating. And that movie I watched like 9 months ago, and I still think about it, right? Like, what kind of a monster of a child do you have to be when a demon from hell tries to bind you, right? Like, it's unsettling. And that's, I
Yes.
think, what horror is supposed to be like. Like, I've never seen it. And it was realistic because realistically, in exorcisms, it takes more than one, and sometimes it doesn't work. And like the things that happened during the exorcism was horrific. It was a hard watch, and it was war. They were really at war with this demon, and the demon was trying to save Earth. And like, I swear to God, it was like unreal to see these two from different faiths exercising a demon, and the demon was fighting because it just knew what was going to happen once this child had free reign. And there was nothing anyone else can do because the power of Christ compelled this demon to go away so it can't come back, right? There's no other power greater than that, right? And
Yeah.
so she's free at 7 years old. So I think horror is supposed to be unsettling. I think it is supposed to be offensive. It is supposed to assault your senses. And so my the reason I don't necessarily enjoy the remakes is because they're sanitized, they're Disneytized, right? Like it's the Disney version of the original. And I think it gives the genre a disservice, I believe. And that's just my own opinion, right? But like, um, that's why I really don't watch remakes of American classics or international blockbusters, just because it's not going to be the same. And everyone is trying to like have the all inclusion and not be offensive, but everyone doesn't belong in everyone's space, and two, some stories are horrific.
Yes.
They just
Yes.
are. They just are.
No, I totally agree. Like everything doesn't necessarily need to be remade, especially because at the time when they were made, if you were to make them now, there would be a lot of like there would be so many things that would need to be changed. Like it wouldn't be the same, it wouldn't hit the same. So, you
Right.
know, what's the like we already have it. You know, there's so many people with different ideas, fresh ideas, you know, like we need to see the new blood. You know, we need some fresh blood on the
And
screen.
there's like so many, there's like so many of them. Like the movie like Talk to Me. Like there's so many cool movies coming, and that's an A24 movie. Like I'm already like like getting ready with my like movie
Yes.
card, like you know what I mean? So like there's no reason for it. And like how it needs to be left alone, because like how the problem that people have with HP Lovecraft, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the remakes. And I am not a Lovecraft fan, right? I remember I got an email from a guy. He was like, "How does it feel that your work is being compared to one of the racist men in horror, H.P. Lovecraft?" And I'm like, "How is that a loss? Like that's a win, right?" But whatever. But like every single remake I have seen or adaptation I have seen or read from H.P. Lovecraft from a person of color has been a banger, right? So they've taken something that is problematic and have made something much better from it, right? It's not a remake, it is based off of. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
if Clockwork Orange is, it's horrific. It doesn't need to be remade. It can be inspiring, right? But I just don't think it needs to be remade. There's like, because how is that gonna, what is that gonna, I don't know. And then
Yeah.
watching Children of the Corn, I was like, this is not scary. Like the main character's performance was top notch. Like that little girl, I was like, where did she come from? But like the story in itself, it's just, it wasn't scary. And then there was like the Hills Have Eyes too, with the military training camp. Like, why that? Like, how are these movies getting produced? Like who, like I need their PR team. Like, are you kidding? But like it's not a, it's like it's, there's a market for everybody. Let me take that back. There's a market for everybody. That
Yeah.
movie has its tribe. I don't want you
Ex-
guys emailing me.
now, who would be your favorite horror villain, or do you have a favorite horror villain?
um that's good, because my favorite of all time are the villains. Like when I was in high school and like in the play, I never wanted to be the princess. I always wanted to be the evil queen, because of course I like bad guys.
That's a
And
quote right there.
so I mean I always have. Like I always have. Like never did I ever want to be the princess. And so, and that's why I remember when there's this reviewer called the Anonymous Viewer, and I will never forget his review of the Spectrum trilogy. He said that I have, this author has no regard for her readership. She gives us two evil supervillains and shrugs her shoulders as we try and pick between the lesser evils. Because I think I celebrate evil for evil's sake, right? Like my villains don't didn't become evil because something happened to them. Like it's one of the things that I notice when we see female villains, they are villains because something bad happened to them. Like Harley Quinn and the woman from Audition and the woman from the original Fatal Attraction. They're slated. They're a woman scorned. But my villains are villains because they're just, they like it. Like they're bad for just evil's sake, right? So um but in like movie villains, like there's always they something's happened to them, and so I always root for the villain. It makes me mad when they die. um but like I love bad guys and super villains and evil geniuses, so I all of them. That's my answer, all of them.
Well, that's an awesome answer. That's an awesome answer. Do you have a favorite final girl or final boy?
I liked All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, because I didn't see that coming. Um, there was a movie I can't remember. It made me so angry because she should have been the final girl. So I think the movie might have been called Creature. But anyway, these kids went up camping, um, and there was this creature that was killing everybody, and they ended up in a cabin with that had already the people in the cabin had already been assaulted by it. And so these two girls battle it out and they get to the end, and the black girl gets killed, even though the black girl was the one who got everyone to safety and got the white girl to safety, and she's the one who died. And that pissed me off because she should have been the final girl, just like in the original Descent. The um the Asian girl should have been the final girl. Like I don't understand. Like it's almost as if the person of color, the woman of color has to die. Like, oh,
Yeah.
so like as far as like having a favorite final girl, the only one that I can think of is Mandy, because one, she's was the villain, and she was a villain for no other reason than being a villain. You know what I mean? So that's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yes, yes. Now I've got one more question for you. I want to thank you, for rocking out with me, so far and answering all my questions and just diving in deep. Like this has been like I feel like this is, like I feel like majority of times I'm just going live or whatever and just talking with people, but I felt like this was a real podcast episode where I'm just like this had that podcast vibe where, it takes me back to the days when I started listening to podcasts. So, thank you for that. Thank you for restoring that feeling, that podcast
Thank
feeling.
you. It's been like amazing. Sorry for the glitch
Yes.
in the weather, but
No, no, it happens. It happens. The weather can't stop nothing. Can't stop nothing. But the last question for the interview would be if you could spend a day in the life of your favorite, horror villain, um, creature, person, entity, 24 hours, who would it be? Or what would it be?
ooh, that's so good. I would be the alpha dog from the movie uh Breed. Is that the right movie? Hold on. From the girl, remember the Mexican girl from the movie Fast and the Furious? She was in a creature feature with dogs. And
Michelle Rodriguez?
yep. And so was it Breed? And so those dogs, I would be the alpha dog in that, because I think what makes people afraid of dogs is because this is an animal with problem solving capabilities, right? And you can see a dog thinking, and when they pack up, it's it's super scary. And I remember, like, back in the day, remember DVD extras where you could see behind the scenes. There
Yes.
was a scene where she was running. She had to run from the dog and jump over the stairs on the porch and run into the house. And one of those dogs bit her, and she did not let them know until after the scene. She was so into it. And I thought those dogs were just like so, I'm a dog person, right? And just to see how he was like moving his pack, and like, that movie is really underrated, and I would be that alpha dog, even though they didn't win in the end. Like, if that was my, if if I could be that dog, it would be that dog from that movie. Breed. Thank you, Mark. He said Breed, so it's
Yes.
Breed. And then another dog movie that is amazing is White God. That dog was pretty amazing too, which me and Sasha did a whole podcast on that. We believe that it was international remake of the American movie called The Pack from 1979, and so and it had social commentary. So like that movie was kind
Yeah.
of cool because all of those dogs were dogs from shelter homes, and they were from the pound, and all of them at the end of the movie got home. So yeah.
Yes, yes. I love it. You mentioning Breed took me back. Like I haven't seen Breed in a little minute, so it definitely took me back.
And
But
then
that was
speaking of remakes, so like they remade Down Under, remade The Pack, and why?
wow.
Because again, there was no story behind it. So you remember in the Pact where the main dog was left on the island, right? And then we believe he turned rabbit because he had been left all alone, and he packed up with
Yes.
the other dogs, right? And so that was the story behind that. And the social commentary was not leaving your dogs out in the wilderness for them to like, because that's not cool, right? And so White God was the same commentary. But like one of the cool things about 1970s movies is how everything is overacted. And so remember the domesticated dog when he chased the rabbit. And so remember the rabbit bit him on the nose. But then when he was coming down the hill, he was limping. Like even
Yeah.
the dogs were overacting. Like, why are you limping? The rabbit bit you on the nose. Like, what's happening here? So, but like in the remake, it was just like nothing. Like there was like it was so flat. It made me mad. I'm like, you're only reinforcing the reason why you don't watch remakes. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Remakes, it's definitely a hot topic. Remakes are always gonna be a hot topic, you know. The curly girl says yes, White God. That movie hits hard.
It was so
Yes,
good.
yes, definitely.
So good. I was bawling my eyes out. I was like, but I also cried at I also cried at the pack too. So yeah, I'm like I cry at horror movies. Like it's just I'm a big old wimp.
Well, listen, it is what it is. If something hits you emotionally, then somebody did their job. Somebody did their job. Whether intentionally or unintentionally. But I just want to say thank you for joining me tonight,
This
Crystal,
was so
Connor.
fun, you
You
guys. Like,
know.
thank you so much. I can't believe like I didn't get to see all of the all of the comments because I was paying attention to you and the weather
Oh yeah.
outside. So like,
Yeah, it's like you got a lot of love, a lot of people, stop through tonight. It's been an awesome live. It's definitely one of my favorites. Like I said, this felt like, this took me back to the podcast, the beginning of the podcast days, when I first just fell in love with them conversations. I can tell you're a writer, and I can tell you're a storyteller, and you can just take it there. You can just take it there. And I love that, there's a flow. I love that there's a flow. So, I'm hoping
because
that
you're an
this isn't
awesome
the
host,
last
right? Like
time.
you're the one who like made sure that that happened. Like and like thank you for not letting me like just run off the rails. You're like, okay, so let's talk about this now. Come back down, take a deep breath, like because I
Oh no,
tend
I
to do
love it.
that.
I love it when, people are very passionate about, about what they do and about what they're talking about, and a lot of people love it too. They appreciate it too. Jaleesa, thanks for stopping by. Terrence says awesome chat. Good night, everyone. Good night, Terrence. Curly girl, great live, you guys.
Hi, curly girl.
Dan and Horror, great interview. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by. But yes, I hope this isn't the last time, I get to have you on. I'd love to get you on one of these discussions, when you're not busy doing, the million things that you're juggling. Would love to have you back on, to chat about, favorite genre, horror.
My favorite
So
genre is religious horror because it's the scariest to
yes.
me.
All
Yeah.
right,
So
well, listen, we could do a live on religious horror, and I'll definitely hit you up, and we could definitely, get some people and chop it up about that, about
okay,
religious horror. So we'll definitely make that happen. But
awesome.
thank you for everybody, for stopping by. Yes, thank you, Mark, for stopping by, showing some love. I want everybody to check out Crystal Connor, and everything that she's got going on. Gonna have links in the description, for especially for the Cabin in the Woods Film Festival. Make sure you check that out. Stay up to date with it on social medias as well. Gonna have Twitters and the Instagrams and everything up there. And make sure if it's something that you're interested in, check it out. If you can't, if you're in Seattle, if you can make it, make sure that you check it out. Or she's also
And
got the
remember, there's
virtual.
streaming. There's going to be a virtual.
Yes.
So one of the things that I wanted to like talk to you about too, and we can like figure it out later. But like, yeah, I'll talk to you offline. So, well, no,
Okay.
I'll just tell you now. Like maybe, like I don't know how long you have for how long you go live, but maybe we can like do ticket like a discount ticket so that you can do live for the virtual side of the festival.
Oh
You know what I
wow.
mean? So
Yeah.
I haven't announced the virtual host yet, but she's a fucking blast. As soon as I get her flyer up, so she's gonna be the actual host. But like maybe you can like we'll all figure it out. But I know that I was going to ask you if you wanted to do a live on the virtual side, but it has to be ticketed. You know, people have to buy tickets
Gotcha.
because their films aren't free, and then we'll set that all up and do it that way. But it, so that um, just so that everyone knows what's going on and can experience it. Um, so that you guys know for next year, because like how
Yes.
street dealers are. This one is free. Next year you pay for it, even though you're going to be paying for
Yes.
it. You'll get a discount. But I am your dealer for horror. So we'll
Yes.
leave it at that.
Yes, I would totally be down for that. That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. So
So then
see,
everyone
you
can
see,
talk about the
she's
movies.
yeah, she's full of great ideas, folks. Full of great ideas. Make sure you definitely check her out. Also, award-winning horror sci-fi author. Check out her work as well. She's also got the children's stuff out there as well. So make sure you check it out.
Amazon.com. I think the book is on sale right now. So if you're going to get it now, it is affordable. So please, 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 if you're looking
Yes.
for it, because like I'm an independent author, so I don't have the um, I'm a starving artist, so I don't have the ability to drive my own prices down. So I think right now the book is under $10. So
That's a
purchase it
steal.
now, buy a bunch of them while they're on sale, because they normally go for $60 at a time.
Oh
And
wow.
because the book is almost a pound, there's over 323 pages, all those color pages in there. There's nothing I can do. Like Amazon is like, it's print on demand. We don't do black and white and color. It's either all color or all black and white. I don't have control over that. So
Listen, that
it is
book was
on sale
hefty.
right now. Yeah.
The price that you just mentioned, that under $10, that's a steal for that hefty book, especially with the illustrations and the amount of research that you put in, and it just that's a steal. That's a steal. So make sure y'all go check that out. Make sure y'all go check that out. You know.
Okay, guys, I'm done talking. I know you guys are trying to get offline. It's late over there. I'm still in Seattle, so like the sun's still up. You're like, okay, wrap it up. So I'm gonna stop talking now.
Not at all. Not at all. I love the energy. I love the energy. But yes, thank you all for stopping by tonight. Cray Dre, thank you for stopping by tonight. Everybody in the chats, if I missed you, I appreciate you. And as always, as the send off, peace, love, and horror, everybody. And we're out of here.